And you mustn't think a lot of yourself, you know. I grew up here in Steenbergen Retreat, not far from here, and I go there regularly to remind myself what my mother, who was a bit fiery evangelical Christian, used to say, that whatever you have, it is not of yourself. It is the gift of God. So I remind myself that no matter what you think you achieved, actually, it's nothing. And so my honor is to serve you, to come here and listen to you, and to just live your life as a South African, as a citizen, as a global citizen. I'm not a South African really, I care about people everywhere. And sometimes it's hard, you know, like this morning I took my car away for a service in Stellenbosch, which is a very different place from this side of the N2. And I just wanted, you know, sometimes as a black person, you just want a normal day. You just want a fucking normal day. So I'm standing there and I'm saying, guys, the last time I brought my car, you didn't fix the water spray, like I asked you. You fixed something I didn't ask, because somebody called you. You must watch out for this. Somebody called 2 hours later and said, we're busy with your car, and we are a private company. We noticed there are some cracks in your windscreen. I said, there are no cracks in my windscreen. But it's a perfect ploy. Just imagine, it's a perfect ploy. You're not there. They tell you there's cracks, and they say they're going to fix it for you for 200 Rand. Next time you say to them, send me pictures of the cracks. Then they'll make the cracks for you. You didn't fix that thing. That reverse camera, when I reverse, I need to see this, if there's kids behind me, you know. Just fix the thing. So I stood there with dry lips for 10 minutes trying to explain to these people. Suddenly a white dude comes in. This is in the morning. I just put that on Facebook. I happen to know he used to be the chair of council of Stellenbosch, a chap with the unfortunate name of Herzog. So Herzog came in, and man, the white girl on the other side. Goeiemorgen meneer. Kan ek vir meneer 'n koppie koffie kry? She will never make that mistake again. Let me just put it very mildly. You just want to be normal. You just want, I don't want coffee, but they don't give him coffee. Just treat us the same. Hey, our country's got a long way to go. A very long way. Sometimes you just want to have a normal day. So when my white brothers and sisters said to me, can't we just leave the past behind? I said, yes, please. But you keep bringing it up. I also want to move on. But you keep bringing it up. And the other day on my new university, they brought up a study on colored women's intelligence. You know? Colored women's intelligence. Can you believe such shit in the 21st century? So I went and I put my research team together and I dug up 100 years of research at Stellenbosch University on colored people. I've read every one of those dissertations. And on the 16th of September, I'm going to talk about this. The title is The First Research was Die Sedelike Gewoontes van die Kleerling Vrou, so that's 1919, believe it or not. All the way through to colored women's intelligence. So what's the problem? The problem is that for 100 years they were doing the same thing. Over and over and over again. So you can't blame these 5 people under Professor de Blanche in sports science, there in Jimmy's faculty, Walming. You got to blame the institution for making this look normal. Anyway, why am I talking to total strangers about all of this stuff? My favorite principal is here, Falgila Cooper. You go to her school, man, it's like going to a Pentecostal church, you just come out and you want to swing from the chandeliers. I mean, it's just amazing stuff that she's doing. I listened to the principal a few minutes ago. I was sitting there inspired. You are amazing. Unlike your government, you are amazing. Excellent. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about, and I like the mentorship program. Taryn's on my case, I mean, she's a bit neurotic, she's on my case every single day. Where are you? We're about to start. Listen, I'll be there, man, chill. But I love her enthusiasm, I love her vision, I love what you do. Teacher training in the old word is clearly not working. Mentorship does work, and I have been preaching that ever since I saw in the 1980s in Namibia something called the Danish Life Sciences Project in the north of Namibia. It's the only teacher education model I've ever seen that works, in which you abandon mass-based, center-based teacher training and you work with teachers in their classrooms, in the conditions in which they find themselves. You develop a relationship of mutual respect, and you sail around the problem that faces all of us, which is the old model of the inspectorate. And suddenly you have adults learning from each other. It is the right thing to do. I haven't seen the model up front in person, because I also want to make sure it's not just chonies hanging out, but a serious impact on teaching, but more importantly on learning. So let me show you something. I'm going to start with my granddaughter. I've only got one grandchild. Unfortunately, they left for New Zealand recently. Here is Zara. As you can see, she's the spitting image of her father, grandfather, sorry. What happens when your son marries a white woman? It's bad news. But no, this is a huge fight in my family. I said to my son, well, all the beautiful black women in this country come over with the white kid. I also have my pride. Anyway, Catherine is a wonderful, wonderful daughter-in-law. But I want you, oops, before I go there, I want you just to now I need to play this if I can. It's a short video, but it's on the slide, yeah. I'm going to show you something amazing that's going to blow your mind away. I started my career as a biology teacher, so I love the teaching of science more generally. She's 13 months old at this point. This is in a small town just north of Auckland, New Zealand, where my son is an educational psychologist in schools around the Northern Territories. He's now fluent in Maori after 7 months. There they don't allow you, talk about culture, they don't allow you just to come into a school, eh? You've got to say something in Maori. Quickly go. Just imagine we never ever started the conference unless you acknowledge that this place is built on the grounds of the original peoples. Just imagine we had that kind of culture. Woo! The EFF would look. Hey, watch this and tell me what scientific principle is my 13-year-old granddaughter discovering. Look at it very carefully. Play it twice. I wrote about it in the Times this morning. So now it's going to get a little difficult. Thank you, Zara. Now it's going to get a little difficult. What scientific principle has this 13-month-old kid just uncovered for herself? Light is not a principle, man. Light is a phenomenon. Light is an event. Light is not a principle. A principle is a relationship between two concepts. What scientific principle as a 13-month-old kid, without having words for it, just uncovered? Hey. The idea is to get to the people who don't know. Otherwise I don't look very smart. You said no before I even got to you. Where are you from? Livingston.
I think when she opens the...
No, that's a mere speech document. This is not Parliament. What scientific principle, sir, has she just discovered?
Discover.
Like an insurance company or something. What scientific principle? Cause and effect. If I the light comes in. Oh my Lord, if I close the curtain, the sun rays disappear. Cause and effect. And one of the reasons I'm showing you this is because I don't care how rich or poor or black or white a kid is. Every child has the potential to learn. This is what I call powerful learning. And one of the reasons we struggle in our school system is we don't believe, you don't believe, that our children can learn. When you get into Fabula school, there is something that I wish every one of you would put up instead of the stupid thing from the department. You know the Western Cape Education Department? The year of the learner. What the fuck was it last year? What will it be next year? It's supposed to be the year of the learner. And all of you are so incredibly, slavishly followers of the state. You put it up, the year of the learner. It is always the year of the learner, damn it. But you go to a school, no excuses. It's written there. Only what? Just success. No excuses. We are a country of excuses. No, the kids can't do math, so make them do mathematical literacy. It's bullshit. Every kid can do math. Life orientation, what rubbish is that? My definition for life orientation is the club your mother should have given you on the way to school, not the subject. We underestimate our children. Let me prove this to you. Put up your hand if you went to a South African university. Wait, no. Just wait. Just now you were not that eager. If you went to a South African university and you had a professor in one of your classes, just one, who said to you something like this: welcome to Biochemistry 352, by the end of the first semester, half of you will be gone. Hands up if you had a professor like that. Welcome to, thank you, welcome to South Africa. I studied in another country. You would never ever hear a professor say that, because the assumption is you can learn. The assumption is you can succeed. But you live in a country in which you do perverse, tell kids you can't. The American school system is full of trouble. But let me tell you something. Their political system is even more corrupt with Agent Orange. But let me tell you something. Every American parent, black and white, tells their child from the day they were born the same thing, which is what, sir?
You can do it.
You can do it.
No, that's Obama. What do they do? They tell every one of their kids, you will become the next president of the United States. Now, of course it's nonsense. You've got to be wealthy, and you've got to be white. Or at least your mother's got to be white. You can just become president. But it doesn't matter. It's the fact that that child is told every single day. What do? You group by ability. The one group, the doves. How I wish I was in the doves. The other group, the crocodiles. I was always in the crocodiles. You assume that some can. Oh, I love Zwelatemba. Zwelatemba is one of the schools I work with Moavia and Corval and Eugene. And so on. You know what I love about Zwelatemba? I had all those children the other day, the senior class at the University of Stellenbosch. Because you know, like most kids, they didn't know you can actually study wine, viticulture. They didn't know about anatomy, so we took them through. But you know what they did at that school, which I fully support? No kid does mathematical literacy. No kid, it's out, it's illegal. And guess what? When the expectation was set that you can do math, everybody did well in math. So our problem is not technique. Our problem is not, 4IR. It's a load of bullshit. I spent half the year, every year, in Palo Alto, California, which is in the middle of the Silicon Valley. Did you know something? Nobody there talks about the fourth industrial revolution, just us. Because it's something you do, it's not something you talk about. And here we are, in a country that doesn't believe. You know what my biggest fear for Zara is? That she would go to a South African school. I am so scared. Because she's going to figure out there's 2 ways to solve this problem, and the teacher will say there's 3 steps. She would be like all the other girls standing watching the science experiment while the boys handle the test tubes. She will put up her hand and she will be ignored. And the teacher would be so absorbed with finishing caps that she'll forget she's putting a cap on their learning. Do I hear an amen? Amen. You're Dutch Reformed, you're not supposed to say amen. And so our biggest problem, ladies and gentlemen, is actually not a toolbox of tricks. Our biggest problem is we don't believe in our children. When I went to the University of the Free State, all hell broke loose. On day 1, I decided we were going to raise the AP scores, that is the admission scores, from 28 to the same as medicine, to 38, over the next few years. The first thing that happened is, you know what political parties send me a letter saying, "Dear Professor Jansen, you are a racist. You're making it difficult for black people to come in." And I backed him and I said, "No, you're the fucking racist." Because like Steve Biko and Ever Alexander, I believe every kid can achieve, regardless of race. And guess what? The pass rate went up from 37%, it was the 2nd lowest in the country, just slightly higher than the University of Venda, and it's now the 3rd highest in the country. Same kids, different message. And so if you start off with the notion that the problem is you've got to start taking yourself seriously. Now, South Africans are gullible people. We are gullible. We believe any crap. Let me prove it to you. You all know this photo. Do you know what people miss about this? You know what's really amazing about this photo? Let me tell you. The guy in the coffin, the one being resurrected from the dead, is Zimbabwean. The guy raising him from the dead is from the Congo, the pastor, Pastor Luka. The people fighting are South Africans. We are gullible, they take us for idiots. That's why every Nigerian can come here and just rip you off. Because you've been isolated so long from the world that we're gullible. We slept. When that OBE thing came out, I was the first and the only person to stand up and say, this thing is going to fail. Whoa, I was called the son of many things. But you mustn't do it. Now the kids here at UCD, decolonize. What bullshit. You know, in future there's no more decolonize. It's now 4th industrial revolution. Tomorrow there's going to be another fad. And as my Bible says, don't be blown around by every wind of doctrine. Beautiful phrase here. Don't be blown about by every wind of doctrine. Of course there must be decolonization, but when it becomes a slogan, then it takes over common sense. And so I want to talk to you about 4 or 5 things that we don't have. And that if you have this in your school system, if you have this within the mentorship program, things change. And I want to call this very simple thing presence. Now you know people who have presence and people who don't. Nelson Mandela had presence. When you walked into a room, you knew something was going on. You felt the vibes. It's like when you were first, you know, with your first husband, remember? You come into the room and you feel the vibrations. 6 months later, you know. And then you also have relatives, you know, relatives, they're in the room. They're physically there, you don't see them. And so presence is this thing that makes all the difference within the college. Now, let me just talk about one of the most important things in a country like ours. I never make this speech in any other country except South Africa. You have to, at the very least, to be present, be physically present. which you cannot guarantee in South African schools. At Oscar and Beta, and any given one day, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teachers missing. At Mamelodi High School, there's half the teachers missing every single day. How do I know? I've been there. So at the very least, you've got to be physically present. You know why these schools do so much better along the southern suburbs, main road here, from Jan van Riebeeck in the City Bowl all the way? We just finished a study of 30 of these former white schools. Oh my God, this is going to cause trouble. But from Jan van Riebeeck all the way to Paul Greiling in Fisher. Do you know why these schools do well? One of the main reasons. The teachers show up. How do you as a principal man run a school when 5 of the teachers every single day is not there? You can't. And so the research of the HSRC has shown in decade after decade that a kid in an average township school only gets a third of the instructional time of a kid in one of these former Model C schools. It's a fact. So you can't do anything unless you are physically present. Secondly, you must also be emotionally present. What does this mean? This means that when that's why I can never stand. I don't understand people who stand behind a mic and read their notes and try to, I have to be among you. I've got to be emotionally present. You have to have a sense of a connection between you and the teacher. And most of our children are taught by people who look as if they lost a relative. So let me tell you something. When I was dean at the University of Pretoria, I was invited to speak at the school. They made a mistake. It was a white school in Centurion, and they made a mistake because, you know, they saw my name, Jansen, and they thought it's a white guy. When I got there, I could see the guy's face saying, well, fuck, you know. But now it's too late. You can't send me back. I must speak at the prize giving. I still remember funny that fast bowler, his daughter was getting a there. The videos, yes. So I'm here at the school, and it's awkward now. It's awkward because, you know, everybody is sort of, you know, and I'm standing there. But, you know, I like those sort of awkward situations, as you know. But then I saw something that changed my life forever. Afrikaans school, typical white, technically good school. Socially, the kids were obviously bankrupted. But technically, they were getting high scores in math. Technically, they were getting high scores in Afrikaans and the like. Then they awarded the prizes. I've never seen this before. And this little grade 3 kid would come across with the ponytails, and she comes to the teacher. You know what the teacher does? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not exaggerating. The teacher drops everything. As the kid comes, she runs towards the child. She picks up the, oh, my old klein torenkind, what the fuck? Where am I? So I said to the principal, man, I know you made a mistake, but I'm here. But would you mind not calling the police tomorrow morning, because I'm going to stand outside you, because I'm curious. I'm an amateur anthropologist. I wanted to know the culture of schools, you know. So the next morning I came very early, before anybody was there, watched the caretaker open the gate, and I watched the first teacher come in with a Mazda, a blue Mazda. I'll never forget this. And as she comes with the blue Mazda, the kids ran towards the car. They fought to carry her bag. She hugged each and every one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason black kids don't want to become teachers, you go to Stellenbosch University right now, in the building that I am, 90% of the kids there are white Afrikaans women, because they had a teacher who inspired them with emotional presence. They don't remember anything about quadratic equations or the reasons for the Great Trek, but what they remember is that there was a teacher who was emotionally present in their lives. And so if you come into school and there is no fire in your belly, I took out some of my old students that I taught at Trafalgar High School the other day. They said to me, oh, Prof, we would like to take you for dinner. So all these students I taught, we went up to the Boerkamp base here in Cape Town, and I was watching these kids. And one by one they got up to sort of say, what a wonderful teacher you were. But you know what? None of them remembered the biology or anything. What they said, Colwyn Manchester says, I still remember how you demonstrated gravity by standing on your head. I said, what about the life cycle of the fern? No! And so where is that emotional presence? This is not about personality. Different people play that role differently. But it is about having a feeling. Any of you have this experience? You come home at night and your spouse, your wife, your husband, your scallopy says to you, you know you're here, but you're not here. Thank you, Paulina. Muslims are the only honest people. You bloody Christians you can't trust, you know. Because you're sitting there, but your mind is back at the office. You're on the laptop, the iPad, the iPhone. You are physically there, but you're not there. And so part of the reason that I think we don't really make an impact in the schools I visited the other day in Toti, the schools, I mean, go where you please. In our majority schools, you do not have the sense of an emotional presence. Thirdly, you also need to have a spiritual presence, by which I don't mean religion, by which I mean that when you walk into that classroom, that student sense that you came to work for her, that your staff sense that you really came there to work for them. In other words, you are spiritually present even when you're not there. Let me demonstrate this to you. Do you know how I know a good teacher from a bad teacher? A good teacher would be called to the office by the principal on the schools, if you have intercom. Mrs. Volune, could you please immediately come to the principal's office, and off you go. And the moment she steps out of that class, there is chaos. And then there's Mrs. Gumedi. Mrs. Gumedi, could you please come to the principal's office? Mrs. Gumedi steps out and you can hear a pin drop. Because even though she isn't there physically, she is there spiritually. Do I hear an amen? Turns out that this is deeply rooted in our spiritual world. Matthew 18:20 says what? Matthew 18:20. Huh? Can you sing afterwards, please? I can lay hands on you. When 2 or 3 of you are gathered together, I might not be there, but I'm there. How the hell? What is that prayer, that psalm that all of you read at every funeral, man? The 23rd Psalm? Don't say you're Jewish. And what happens when you come to that verse about being there even though you're not there? What does that verse say?
I'm there even though I'm not there.
Listen, Susie girls. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are there, but you're not there. And yet you are. Do you have that spiritual sense of being present, of being concerned with people, not only for their ANA score, test scores, but for their worthwhileness as human beings? That's a different kind of presence. That is a presence in which I connect with you. I was listening very carefully to this young woman earlier. And you know, there's something powerful that she said that resonated with me. She may have overdone it a little bit, but I liked it. When she says, I actually love all of you. I'll get to those of you who I don't know yet, but I actually connect with you. Do you know how powerful that is? If you came out of a house where there is no food, where you saw your mother being beaten by your father, where nobody ever said something to you like, I believe in you. You are the last line between hope and hopelessness. And therefore you have to be spiritually present. Then, whoo, it's going to get rough now. You also need to learn how to be politically present. Now, unfortunately, the word politics has come to mean something negative, which is unfortunate. Because politics for me simply means power, influence. And you can wield it for the good. So we finished, as I said, the study of 30 primary schools, all the way down. Grove, Herschel, Springfield. Oh my God. See, I went to schools where you didn't have fancy things. I went into Saks for the study with my research team. And one of the people there said to me, "Do you know the difference between a swimming pool and a water polo pool?" I said, "What the hell?" Yeah, but how much I know? They said, "No, the one you can't stand." A school with 3 astrotipes. Why the hell do you need 3 astrotipes? A school, this is the only school in the world, that when the teachers die, they bury you on the spot. Did you know that? How did you know that? There's a school here, really 10 minutes away, that when the Dominican nun dies, they go to the chapel, and the nun then gets carried by the learners and all the other kids. I always said if I had a girl there, I would tell her not to stand there. Just imagine, you're standing there, God of honor, here comes the nun going to an eternal resting place, and you say, "Oh my God, there goes period 7. I mean, it's horrible. But this incredible privilege from Redem in Constantia to Bishop myself. Don't you people have a conscience? Because 10 kilometers from here, kids are drowning in their own shit. I don't know about you guys. For me, this is wrong. I don't know what kind of ethics you have. That's why I've been teaching about the ethics of the shepherd. I mean, this is a horrible guy. He's really crazy. That Jesus teaches about in 2 of the Gospels. Do you know what he did, Valdela? This idiot had 99 sheep safely stored away. You know that story? You know what this idiot does? He goes to look for the other one. That is a bad decision in accountancy. That is a bad decision. Don't make me white. I just want to be myself. So this guy leaves the 99 sheep. Why is that a bad decision? Because in actuarial science, the calculation is wrong. You keep the 99. You got them in hand. You write off the 1 sheep as bad debt. And you keep these ones away from the predators. But what is the point of the story that Jesus tells? The real shepherd leaves that 99 and goes to look for this 1 sheep. Oh my God, just imagine you had a government that said it is not good enough for the kids at Herschel and Bishops, where my children are to do well. Did you notice where all the parliamentarians send their children to school? Not to asking better. Not to Bondigo primary. You know the president sent his kids? Rodin and St. Stephen's. Where did my best friend, Lady Pandel, send a kid? Boy, Bishops and Herschel. No. The ethics of the shepherd is that my kids are not safe until everybody's kid is safe. And if you don't get that, you shouldn't teach. And so he goes after the sheep. And he finds the sheep. And when he finds the sheep, so what does he do?
Andeas.
What?
I don't know.
Brother saying, thank God I'm Hindu. What? What, man? He finds the sheep.
I don't know. It goes back to the crowd.
No! The Bible says he finds the sheep and he is happy and he is joyful. Why is this countercultural in the Cape? Because on the Cape Flats, if your kid goes missing in Blue Route Mall and the mother finds you, there is no great rejoicing. Jy word geklap. Laat dit vir jou in. Your haters' parents spoke as they beat you. Laat dit vir jou is. But the shepherd finds the sheep. He's ecstatic. He puts it on his shoulders, and where does he go? No, he doesn't go to the other sheep. He goes home. He wants up his friends. And it says there's great rejoicing because he found the one that was lost. Whew, I was in Parkwood Estate the other day and I told the story. It was bad news because I went to a Muslim woman and I said, "And man, what did he do when he found the sheep?" He said, "Al-Islamu Mani Adaw!" This is a Christian story. Oh, you've got to love him. And every single month, when I get paid, including the money that she's given me, I give that money away. So for children, young people to study at university who can't afford to. Not because I want people to see it, but because I know that I have a duty to make sure that the other sheep also gets it. It's not enough for my children to be saved until everybody's child is saved. And I can tell you now, I'll take you to the final chapter of this book which we've just finished. You know why these schools, some of these schools are 80% white and 20% black? It's very simple. Because of the convergence of the interests. The racial interests of white people and the class interests of black people. And you know why you hardly find any black African kids in these schools? It's called racism. There are colored kids there. There's only one primary school in this whole area that has only black African kids, or mainly 99%. That's Claremont Primary, but that's a very interesting reason for that, but I'm not going to spoil the book for you. You see, unless you're able to look beyond your own skin, unless you're able to look beyond your own class, unless you're able to look beyond your own religion, you don't understand the story of the sheep that was lost. The truth is, colored people look after colored people. Muslim people look after Muslim people. Jewish people look after Jewish people. Afrikaners look after Afrikaners. I still want to meet South Africans, more than just one or two of you, who look after all the sheep. And especially the ones who are lost. And unless we as South Africans can look ourselves in the mirror, don't talk to me about transformation unless you have transformed yourself. So every now and again there'll be a crisis, whether it's here at St. Susie, or the black teacher at Russell and Girls. It will happen more and more. Because we're not dealing with the real issue, which is our prejudice against people who don't look like us, or pray like us, or make love like us, or come from where we do. The other day I had such joy. They asked me to speak here in Wynberg. I've never cried so much in my life. Because a group of Muslim men came to see me in Stellenbosch, and after the meeting, they said, Prof, would you mind coming to speak when we break our fast on Friday night? This is the diet of Ramadan. And I felt so, do you know why that's odd? Because my parents were Abraham and Sarah. They were evangelical Christians. They were so serious about the evangelical faith. Every kid had a Christian name, biblical name. My name's Jonathan Jansen. First gay couple in the Bible. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't know that? No, it first says very clearly in 1 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 19 that the love of Jonathan for David was greater than the love of a man for a woman. Hello? You think Megan Rapinoe is the only gay person in the American soccer team? No. My brother is Peter, the rock upon which Christ built the church. My sister is Naomi, And of course, being Abraham and Sarah, my younger surviving brother is Isaac, he's the naughty one. And we often beseeched our parents to offer him up as a burnt sacrifice to the Lord. So here the son of Abraham and Sarah is asked to speak at the breaking of the fast. Do you realize what an honor that was for me? So as the Muslim brothers walked away, I said, hey, brothers, where is this taking place? My secretary had to come and revive me with Epsom salt. They said, oh, sorry, Prof, it's at the Weinberg shoe. I said, what the where? The Weinberg Mosque. Take police around. So, let's get this straight. The Muslims are breaking fast in a synagogue where they will be addressed by a Christian. No, we are messed up. No, we're not messed up. We're getting something right. You see, what they were discovering is that you're not less of a Muslim or less of a Jew or less of a Christian by opening up your heart. You are more of a human being. And yet I can tell you, in the practice of education, the research about this is legend. Teachers give boys more opportunities in a science classroom than girls. Fact. Teachers are more likely in an interracial school to watch for the white kids and for the black kids and fact. You're more likely to be heard if your parents are middle class, black or white, than if you're poor. Fact. So don't talk to me about presence unless it is also political presence, in the sense that I will take care of all of you and not just my own. I've given up on politicians. I've given up on the president. Because in his first State of the Nation address, he correctly spoke about the children who had died in pit latrines. The young kid in Limpopo, the kid in the Eastern Cape and so on. It was important for him that he speak about how children died in pit latrines. You know what broke my heart? That same week, 8 white kids died at a school in the Vaal Triangle when the concrete platform dropped on them. Not a fucking word from the president. Are the only people we care for people who are black, or is it also people who don't look like us? I can't take that kind of hypocrisy. He didn't ask, is it a black sheep or a white sheep? He knew the sheep was lost. Is it a middle class sheep or a poor sheep? He didn't care a damn. It's a sheep. It's one of us. I'm sorry, I'm preaching. I'll do the altar call in a minute. And so when you go back to school, yeah, read about new techniques in classroom management. Yeah, learn more about different ways of doing mentorship. Yeah, look at all the new modes of assessment. But for heaven's sake, at the very least, be present. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Now we're just going to open the floor for about 5 minutes for anybody who has a burning question, so that Prof can respond. I'll take 3 hands if there are any, and then if there are none, we'll move over. Otherwise, I'll give over to him to open the altar ready for those who are saved to feel like you want to raise their hands, then we can do that. I'll look out for 3. Okay, maybe you don't want to ask a question, you want to make a very, very brief and short comment. So we have 1 hand. Do we have another? We have 2. The last one. Come on. Wait. 3. Thank you very much.
We seem to be losing, and you are saying you're disappointed of the politician. I'm saying we are losing the battle because the people we hope they are going to make a change are not making a change, and the professors, I don't see them anymore. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Good afternoon, Prof. Everybody. I'm taken up by the way you are addressing us, in the sense that you always come to the one man that was looking for a sheep, which obviously is coming from the Bible. And then in our education system, I think after or before the OBE thing, we did away with religious education. Currently we're struggling, we're saying value-driven education, and we don't know where to touch. But before there was this Bible that was coming, not only Bible, other denominations that there are ways of addressing everybody, such that currently we don't know what is happening in our schools because there is nothing in that way that was addressing like values, how we, even in our houses. So there's that learning that was there before as opposed to what is happening today. The Department of Education is forcing or putting us to choose values. Now, is there any syllabus or something that we can touch on and say, these are the values that our learners want to grow? So how do you take that, the change of the curriculum that we had before, which taught us how to grow, and current what is happening in our schools? Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Good afternoon, Prof. Just two comments. The first, you specifically, we're 25 years into democracy, and you've now been stationed at 2 universities that obviously has an apartheid past. And so when we look at the whole issue of social transformation, social cohesion, do you find your current stay at Stellenbosch, for example, is it that people speak about social transformation, or is it social assimilation, where the dominant culture still persists and you either become part of that or not? And the second one deals, in terms of your recent study along the main road here, is that I think you've identified the fact that the system, the doors of learning, is still very much closed to the majority of people, where the black middle class only has access. And so the question is, how do we break down those barriers at both, for instance, at primary school level as well as at university? And then the last thing is, I think you spoke about, how do we have the difficult conversations with the prejudice that we actually have as human beings?
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think the first thing is that I think the academics in general are very much disconnected from these struggles, and as you correctly said, certainly during the 1980s, even the 1970s, there was much more. People died. You know, David Webster was a professor of anthropology. They shot him, okay, for his involvement in the struggle. Ruth First was a professor. Most people don't know that. You know, they bombed to death in Mozambique. Neil Agate, of course, the trade unionist, etc. So you're quite right. There isn't. I think people now look after their own interests. Even good friends of mine, people like Sipho Seepe and others. I mean, we grew up together politically, and I'm surprised at how they become his master's voice. Just pumping out whatever the government says. And I think it is important, particularly in the academy, that you have people who are, first of all, a public nuisance, that constantly raise difficult issues. It's like this 4th Industrial Revolution. I know it's a joke, because the politicians don't know what the other 3 are. So, you can see it's just, we're good with slogans. land expropriation without compensation. Between you and me, it would be nice. But it's not going to happen. Because if they were serious, the people in District 6 would have had the land back long time ago. So it's not it's a political game, you know. So on the one hand, you must raise these issues in the public domain. And I think the reason that people like I are in trouble all the time with ministers and so on is that there's not enough of us. So you're isolated, you know. But there are people doing good work, academics, okay. Nonetheless, in development, think of Neville Alexander's Pricer, you know, here at UCT, he's doing very much on second language, on mother tongue instruction, that kind of thing. I know a lot of colleagues of mine, Sandoran Davids, she does amazing work here on integrating these schools along the main road, etc. So there are, white and black, by the way, academics who are doing this stuff, but it's not enough, and you don't have that emotional kind of leadership that you saw before. You're right about that. The second issue is, I don't think schools should teach values. When I hear values, I reach for my gun. And the reason is that at the height of apartheid, we taught values. Do you know what they had in the Indian schools? Good living. There was a curriculum called good living. So everybody did teach values. What we need to do is live values. Now let me explain to you how this works. If you, and by the way, if you in your school assembly on a Monday morning run it like a church, I just want to tell you, that's the worst thing you could do as a Christian. What you need to do is to talk about what it means to be human. But you don't have to talk about it. My wife and I have raised 2 children. We're very, very proud of them. They give away their salary like we do, half of their salary. And the one became, my daughter is in disaster management, and my son is a psychologist. They spend most of their time working with people who have learning difficulties or people who struggle in drought and that kind of thing. That's how we taught them. I don't remember ever having a talk with them about values, ever. I don't ever remember telling them how to live their lives. But what I do remember is that they saw that their father walked out of that house every morning with a hug. What, and this was before Oprah. What they knew for sure is that the people who came through our home, since the moment they opened their eyes, were black and white. Afrikaans speakers, isiZulu speakers, Muslim, Christian, Jew. For them it was totally normal that they were so confused when they went to school. What's going on? Where are we? Why did you bring us here? So the way to teach values as a teacher is to show up every day for your class. And those of you who know, when I taught here in the Cape, you will know this is true. I was in the class before every learner, and I left after every learner. In other words, the values must be demonstrated, not talked about. You with me? And that is the thing also at university life. We became the first university in the middle of a very conservative part of the country, in Bloemfontein, to have, except for myself and Nicky Morgan, every one of my senior executives were women, and most of them were black. And the reason for that was very simple. I couldn't tell a campus with 67% women about women's rights when we looked as if the only thing that mattered was testosterone. So I think I've come to believe, and people watch you, by the way, people watch you, your students watch you all the time. And if you only hang out with people who look like you. You know, I left Cape Town many years ago, and now I'm back. Do you know how difficult it was? Every family cry. We're fighting. Now they forget that they mustn't use racism with me. Now they say, oh, Johnny, you know, it's now your cousins and so on. You know, oh, the Muslims are taking over, eh? Now my blood pressure starts to go. You know, they no longer call it Randabos East, they call it the Middle East. I said, oh, why am I back in this bloody place? You can't take over in your own country. Let's just get something straight. And so, the reason my kids are confused is because, and the reason my students that I taught, most of them, not all of them, were confused, is because you didn't talk values. You try to live it, you try to show the example. And that is the most powerful resistance. Let me give you one example. I know I'm going to lose you here. I'm going to lose you here. I'll even lose Olga, who's a saint in my eyes, and Judy tape. They are saints. Some of the best teachers that I saw at Langa High School in biology, by the way, when I taught there on a Saturday. Top teachers. Nat Bongo. But if you want to be a really effective teacher and principal, visit your kids in their homes. Sorry. They will not believe you until you visit them in their homes. And as the teacher for 10C, the class teacher, every one of those kids were visited in their homes. In Warmer Estate, in Saltrip, in Woodstock, in Buka. I went into their homes. And one of those kids said to me one day, "Oh, Professor, I beg you, don't come into my home, please." So I said, "I'm sorry, Arlene." Her name was Arlene Jacobs. I said, "Sorry, Arlene, I'm going to be there." And when I got there, there was nothing in the house. When I say nothing, I mean like nothing. So we sat on the floor. Mother was into the night, Dad was drunk. And 2 years ago, she called me and she says, "Professor, I'm calling you from overseas. I haven't seen you for years. I wanted you to be the first to know I've just gotten my master's degree from the University of Warwick. I wanted you to know that because you visited me in my home. You understood where I was coming from." Sir, that's a much better value statement than saying, "I swear allegiance to my country," and therefore you don't swear allegiance to anything. Just deal with your conscience. Live your values, don't talk about it. So I just want to talk about finally assimilation. You're right. There is I've sort of moved on from those debates from is it assimilation. I'm sort of saying, how do we teach our kids not to be one culture, but to be many cultures? How do we teach our children to, on the one hand, be fascinated by a faith that is not theirs? How do you teach them to be as moved by the fate of children right now in American concentration camps on the southern border of the United States as they would be concerned about this country that burns foreign nationals who look like them? As they would be, you know what I mean? So I'm talking here about a cosmopolitanism rather than my culture versus your culture. So I admire the kids who learn another language besides their mother tongue. I admire the kid that says, "You know what? I'm really a Christian, but I'm going to the Long Street Mosque on Friday. I'm curious about how other people worship." And so how do we turn the tables here from, my land, my folk, my nasi, my culture, my language, my tradition, to how do I become a more generous, culturally, a more generous human being? God bless you, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Prof. We truly appreciate it. I'm sure we all revived.